Before we kick off today's episode, a quick word from our sponsor, Synergy Squared. Founded by the renowned meal prep coach, nutritionist, and competitive bodybuilding veteran, Steph Demara, Synergy Squared is all about precision nutrition that fuels your fitness goals. Imagine custom-tailored meal plans designed with the science of performance in mind, giving you the energy to push past your limits every day. Ready to transform your nutrition and ignite your workouts? Contact Steph today and take the first step toward peak performance. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to the Running Wine Mom podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Cieslinski, aka the Running Wine Mom. I am beyond thrilled to welcome one of my first friends from college to the podcast tonight, Robb Ruiz. Robb's story is one of transformation, resilience, and finding love, both in himself and with someone else. After undergoing weight loss surgery, Robb committed to a healthier lifestyle, discovering the power of CrossFit and fitness along the way. In today's episode, we're diving into what it takes to rebuild your life after major changes, the highs and lows of parenthood, and the joy of finding love after loss. Robb shares his insights on creating balance, staying motivated, and embracing vulnerability in the face of change and growth. So whether you're looking for inspiration, a few laughs, or just a reminder that it's never too late to rewrite your story, you're in for a real treat. So without further ado, let's welcome Robb. Welcome.
How are you?
Great. It is great to catch up with you. This is like the first time we're seeing each other face to face outside of like texting or social media in a really long time.
I know. 2008 is when we graduated college. Isn't that crazy?
I know. It's a long time ago. I just went to my 20th high school reunion and I'm like, I don't feel like this is real. Like, how did this happen?
I know. I did that too. We planned it. I was a part of the planning part of everything, and it was just such a great time. But it's like I just feel like how is it this long?
Yeah. I was thinking, obviously this week with us like having, this scheduled our like first moments at Quest, which was such a big part of how we met pre-college. A couple of days before it started, and how many emotions that everyone was feeling, and like how I'm still connected with so many people from that, which is 20 years ago.
20 years ago, Sam. Yeah, we're actually Questicles, aren't we? We're called Questicles because we ended up being the counselors that one year.
Yeah, that was really fun too. That was awesome.
Can we take a moment though and just appreciate everything that you've done? Like, this is so awesome, by the way. I follow you. Being part of this is just like a great time, and I am so proud of all like what you're building and the platform you're building. So kudos to you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I just, I love doing it, really. As you know, I like to talk. So I figured this was a great thing for me to do.
Yeah, this is awesome.
And really just like having conversations with not just like with everyone, to just people that I've known for 20 years and ask them like questions that I haven't ever asked them before.
Sure.
And so that's a really cool part of it. All right. Well, to start each episode, we have our wine, and win of the week segment. This is where we share our favorite bottle of wine, vent about something that's been bothering us, and celebrate our recent victories. So grab a glass, take a deep breath, and let's get started. So Robb, what is your wine of the week?
Oof, it's a rough week this week with everything going on. You definitely need some wine for this one. With everything happening and, depending on when this podcast airs and everything, but there's a lot of emotions, a lot of big emotions that are coming out in the media right now with the change of powers and, whether you're in the right or in the left or in the middle or not or whatever, there is just a lot of emotions going on. And so my biggest wine is like, how do I translate this for my kids? How do I help them also process this? Because us as adults right now don't know how to process what's happening, I think sometimes either. As civil individuals. And so I want to make sure that my values for my children are still there versus, what the media and, how they get their news is so important too. Really big. Like we always watch the news in the morning as they're getting ready for school or having breakfast to talk about things. And I think current events are so important. So how do I process that with them is really, it's scary.
And it's important to have the conversations with them because as a high school teacher, I heard a lot of kids today. Just for those listening, we're recording this the day after the inauguration. So a lot of kids were talking about it and had different opinions.
Yeah.
Some opinions were like, you could tell they got off of TikTok.
Mhm.
but some were very much from the news. But how do they get the new, how do they get all of that? Are they having the conversations with their families? That's really important.
Yeah. I think it's really important to do that. And that's my biggest point is how do we process this together as a family too and still have our values still at the front of it.
And what's your win of the week?
My win of the week. Oh, this is fun. Today actually, I had a staff meeting and I lead a couple different teams, but one team is really important that we lead in human services. I'm the executive director of human services for the county I live in. And I have such a diverse group of young women all across the ages. And I'm just so proud of them. We had a tough issue and there's three of them that I lead them. And they don't need me anymore. And I think that when you're at a leadership role, that when you don't need to be needed anymore. That is the most important piece of leadership that people just feel like threatened by, like, oh my God, you don't need me. But like today, I just looked at them and I'm like, wow, they're so talented. I'm so lucky to be working with them. So taking a step back and thinking about that was really powerful today. And I'm so proud of my teams.
Awesome. And what
Yeah.
is your wine of the week? Your drinking
Well,
wine.
I had a long conversation in my head actually about what was it going to be. Was I going to bring up something from college, like, Tour de Franzia?
Yes.
Because I remember that the slap the bag. That's your every time I think about Sam in college, that's one. But I'm going to go with a red. I'm actually going to have a little bottle right here that I brought with me. It's a little red, a little sweet red. But I don't drink very much anymore at all.
We're doing like damp January. Like, Rachel Ricardo
Yeah.
is having her second wedding next weekend. So I'll be with all the ESU rugby players next weekend. So I'm like, I know that dry January is just not happening.
Please send her my love. Please tell her I said
I will,
hi. I hope
yeah,
she listens.
I'll have to tell her to listen to this one.
Yeah.
So I always like to ask my guests, what is one significant challenge you've successfully navigated shaping your journey to where you are today?
Wow. Oh, that's a deep one. To start off. So today I would say significant challenge would be my divorce was a significant challenge. The breaking up of a family is never easy, especially with two young kids that at that point. But at the same end of it, Sam, it was the best thing that ever happened for everybody involved. Even those little hearts and everything else, I think it's the best thing for everybody at that point.
Yeah, it's been interesting to watch your transformation from afar and just seeing how it seems that it definitely was the right
Yeah.
path for you to go on. Just seeing how happy and healthy you are, really, like it's inspiring to watch.
Thanks. Thank you. It has challenges. I'll tell you that it had many
Right.
moments of challenges, but it's definitely the best thing for us.
That's great. So the running wine mom, we start with a little fitness. We're going to get a little bit more in depth to it, but I want to know, what's your favorite way to stay active?
Yeah. So I do CrossFit. First it was running, but then I ended up needing some weight training and everything else too. So CrossFit 5 to 6 days a week. That's my favorite way. And it's also accountability.
Yeah. CrossFit is one that I've dabbled in, but I just never I just always felt so intimidated every time I went, and just never felt like I don't know, like successful in it, sort of. I don't know why, but I know people love it so much. I'm like, why did it not work for me? I don't know.
You got to drink the Kool-Aid. You got to drink the Kool-Aid. I tell people,
I didn't
but
drink enough.
it's all a combination of the right coaching and the right community and the right stuff. So I hope you can give it a try again.
Yeah. So how does maintaining your own fitness routine contribute to your understanding of the relationship between mental health and physical health?
If I do not let go of this energy that I have, I can't be present for my children. It's
Hmm.
very simple. I know it's like hard to understand and hear unless you get it, but like if I don't get the hour of just trying to release, whether it be cardio, whether it be weights, whether it be going to the gym, or whether it be downstairs in my basement doing it, I need that release to do something for me so I can be a better parent as well. And that also teaches them that they need to be active as well. And I emphasize that so much with my boys.
Yeah. And Willow's actually taking her first yoga class tomorrow night. And so a lot of times I'll do Pilates at our gym, and she thinks that she's taking Pilates tomorrow night. So she's like, I'm so excited. I'm taking Pilates. I'm taking
Yeah.
Pilates. And whatever, it's yoga. So she doesn't know the difference. But I just thought, she's so excited about this because I do it. And
Yeah.
that's crazy to me that she is just I'm going to be big and be able to do this. So
That's
yeah, our
awesome.
kids are watching. It's a great
Yeah.
thing as well that you're doing with your kids to show them the way, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I wish my parents did that, but there was a different time.
Yeah. So let's talk about parenthood. Tell us about your family.
My family, okay. Well, a very small family, mom and dad, grandma and grandpa. I recently lost my grandfather in May, who was like probably the matriarch of my family. Lung cancer, unfortunately, it really hurt. But how lucky was I to have him for 39 years or
Hmm.
38 years and having my sons know my grandfather. And my oldest is actually named after him. So it's like a little tribute
Oh,
to him. Yeah. And so that's my family itself. But then I also have my two beautiful boys, Aiden and James, and I have a fiance, Lindsay, who are my family as well. And I will always consider their mom part of my family as well. No matter what happens, we're always connected, right? With that common kid. So whatever happened, it didn't work out being together forever, but it's still part of our family. We're still mom and dad, no matter what, and we still have Lindsay, stepmom, and whoever is around the kids. There's our family. So it's a nice, beautiful, big love at times.
wonderful. So what do you think you were least prepared for in parenthood?
Oof, everything. I mean, who tells you about this? I don't know. Navigating technology is a new one.
Oh yeah, because your boys are like at the age.
Yeah. So 11 and 8, right? So we are here. We're in the thick of it also right now with like, oh my God, TikTok was taken off, and what's going to happen in these videos. But first of all, there's no TikTok in my house. So you really don't, doesn't affect us. Um, I navigated, with a lot of caution and a lot of YouTubing myself and figuring it out with other parents, what I have to say on the
Right.
internet as well, because thank God we have that. It's such a good thing, but it's also like another way to get bullied. And it's also another way to be talked and poorly and getting the wrong messages. And these group texts are getting out of control too. And I'm just so scared that, somebody's going to make a mistake and do something really regretful and share something that they shouldn't share or do something. So that part of parenthood, I think that nobody was going to get us ready for, Sam, no matter what, because they didn't see this
Yeah.
coming. You got to remember, we were at ESU when Facebook came out.
Right.
Remember,
That's
like
what I
we were
was just gonna
freshmen.
say. We were like waiting because
Yeah.
remember like the like
.edu.
Princeton, yeah, you had to have the EDU. Like all the like Ivy Leagues had it, that it was like all the other colleges started like trickling down. And that's what I was just gonna say. Like we
Yeah.
were raised with the technology. So it's like,
Yeah.
and now we're raising these kids that we didn't work through what they are going through. And it's
No,
scary
it's so scary. And like, there's so many different ways to do, and a new app always pops up and like, I can't keep up. So
once you
that's,
figure it
that's,
out.
yeah, navigating technology and parenting is hard.
What do you think your parenting style is?
I'm definitely a mix. I'm authoritative with a touch of permissive as well, I would say, because I like to be clear. Clear is kind. I am a big Brene Brown fan. I'm a social worker,
Mm.
so Brene Brown is like, number one for me. But, clear is kind. So I have clear expectations. I want clear directions. Like those are and they're not, hard. Like I don't think they're hard. I just, clean up your room and take out the trash and, clear expectations. But because I also have to be mom and dad sometimes, I have to run a household. I need to have their needs met. And I have to show them the love and to be loved and everything else. So I think I have to switch. I have to like, depending on the issue at hand and what the
Yeah, it's
emotions are at
hard
the
because
house.
you actually have to be the good cop and the bad cop.
I do. I do have to be good cop and bad cop at times. And it's hard. And then I have two, right? So like I have to be one way with one child for one crisis and then one way with
Yeah.
another child because they need a little bit extra because they had a rough day. So like it's hard, and by yourself you're doing it. But you know what? At the end of the day, everybody's loved, everybody gets to bed, everybody's fed, everybody's good.
That's awesome. So what's one piece of advice you would give to other parents?
It's going to be okay. Like at the end of the day, you make sure you kiss them goodnight. Spend some time with them. We only have 18 years. Like somebody told me that when my kids were really small, like you are only going to have 18 summers. You're only going to have 18 years. You're only going to have, if you're lucky, all this. And I'm like, wow, only 18 summers. And I'm already like 11 in with my oldest. Right.
Right.
And I'm like,
More
wow,
than half.
how many more times do I have an opportunity to make memories at this age, right? When they're not going to be like wanting to go with their friends or doing
Mhm.
something or, slow down. That's my biggest piece, and normalize all the bad stuff that's going on, talk about it. Like talk about it with other parents. Cause I thought it was only happening to me. Like I was like, only my kids are doing this. Only my kids. Like normalize talking about the challenges. And being a dad is hard. Being a single dad is hard. But being a single dad and normalizing like the challenges, I think would be my number one piece of advice.
Yeah, that's great advice. All right, so let's get more into you.
All
Let's
right.
first bring up some college memory. Let's take a trip down memory lane. When you think back to college, what do you think stands out most about the time in your life, and how do you think it set the stage for who you are today?
Okay. First of all, how are we still alive?
I
How
don't
are we
know
still
about
alive?
that.
Because I remember I remember the first college party. Remember our first college party?
Yes, yes, I
Okay.
remember it vividly.
I remember
Like
it. We
First
were,
Street or something. Was it like near there? I don't know.
it was past First Street and it was
Yeah.
above a laundromat.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
was, it was our first, I think, Sunday right before actual college classes. And we had to walk all the way. And we say all the way, but it really probably was like a mile. But like walking by ourselves in this new town that we were dropped off, right, by our parents. Like we just got out of the woods from our
Yeah.
quest and like,
Yeah.
oh, we're going to go and do this because, it was fun. But man, how are we still alive? I don't know. That was so much fun. But like ESU was a great time. I think that we had some great experiences there and some time. Um but how did it set the stage for me? I think I always go back to I was super involved in our campus. I was the student body president my senior year, right? So I was treated like an administrative staff member the last year, and I was taught to be professional at a very young age. I was in meetings where I'm like, why am I in this meeting as a student? Like, what is going on? Like, I am technically the CEO of the Student Activities Association of a multi-million-dollar incorporation, and I am making and signing these checks for these acts. Like, remember when we had, I don't know, Black Eyed Peas and everything on
Oh,
campus and all that
yeah.
stuff? Like, we
Yep.
were like, yeah, like all that
We had
stuff. It was,
really good people come to our
yeah,
school.
I know. Dashboard Confessional was
Yes,
one.
Dashboard. That's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, we had some really good ones come in, and we had some comedians that were great. Like I was signing these checks. Like my name was on these checks. I was like, this is crazy, but it was fun, and it was also a good time. But that professionalism and being active on campus set the stage for my professional life. Like
Awesome.
having the ability to formulate sentences that out of college that weren't like, hey, dude, like tell me about this. Like I can't tell you how many times I have resumes that come across my desk out of college. I'm like, what is going on?
I don't know. There's no like the communication, and I don't. I see it in teaching and the fact that it doesn't seem to get better in college.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I'm hoping AI can help them out a little bit. Like use
I
some
don't
tools.
like, come on, like use Gemini or ChatGPT or something. So at least like
I know.
polish it up.
I know. I know. I don't know. That's also scary, but
Yeah, that is too. So another big transition in your life was when you decided to undergo weight loss surgery. Was
yeah.
like tell us about that. Was there a specific moment or like experience that made you say like I need to make this change because that's such a big decision?
I remember the exact moment, Sam, the exact moment. I was about 340, 350 pounds, I want to say. I had sleep apnea, high blood pressure, high sugars. My waist size was like 44, maybe even bigger than that. It was really like a scary moment. And I had Aiden at that point already. And we were in the backyard playing something. I think it was a ball or something. And I couldn't chase him because I was so out of breath. And I'm like, oh my God, what if he decided to run to the street and I couldn't get to him? Or like, what if something happens if, bad and I have a stroke or my heart or gives out and I have him by myself in the house, like I was so scared. So I needed help, right? Like I needed some help. And like I went to the doctor and the doctor was like, no, you just need to eat right and exercise. Well, at that point, when somebody's that
Yeah.
big and they're seeking help, there's an addiction issue. And I will be very honest. Like, so I had gastric sleeve. And so I always say like this, like, people who are addicted to drugs, like you don't need drugs to live. You don't, right? Like it's just something that you decide that people are unfortunately that they want to do. But you need food to live. And like once you're addicted to something that you absolutely need every day, like where's the stop sign? Like where do you stop? How do you stop? Like like how do you get that controlled? And I talked to counselors, I did all that other stuff, and finally I got to the right place at St. Luke's Bariatric Center in Allentown, and they took me in and they kind of walked me through this whole entire process. It was about 12 months before I was able to get surgery, because there's like a whole thing that you have to do beforehand, making sure that you actually are committed and you want to do it, and you're meeting with the social worker, and how are you going to change your life and your plan. And at that point, I decided, like, this is what I want. This is how I want to do it. It's a permanent decision. We're doing it. And it was literally the turning point in my life. Like, that trickled down everything else that happened. That was the moment that my life changed without me knowing.
Yeah. And how long ago was this?
So February 13th, it'll be 9 years.
9 years. Okay. So I was just thinking about it, and I've known a lot of people who have gotten different weight loss surgeries, and many of them, unfortunately, have gained a lot of it back. And I always have admired just the fact that you have ran with it. And like, you literally, if you looked at yourself February 12th, 9 years ago versus February 13th, 9 years ago, like, that really was like a flipped chapter, maybe a new storybook. I don't even know, because I mean, from someone just watching from the outside, it was very clear that it was you weren't turning back.
I was not. No. Like, I remember I got out of surgery, and they tell you, like, so you're flumped up with gas, right? Like, they put all this gas in you, and you're like in this excruciating pain. And the best thing for you to do is to walk. And that if you want to get out the next day is to walk. I remember getting my ass out of that bed and getting on, like, I had the IV thing. I'm like, I'm walking. And this is when I just remember it going. And like, I would walk the halls and walk the halls and walk the halls. Like, I knew that, like, I had the tool, because that's what it is. It's just a tool, Sam. And that's what everybody needs to understand. Like, it's not like this magic bullet that, like, you're going to lose this weight if you don't, it's a tool. It's all it is, because people, like you said, do regain for whatever reason, have surgery again, right? Like, whatever. It's a tool. And like, I knew that at that moment when I woke up, I didn't want to do this for no reason. And I knew I needed to walk. And then that walking later on became running. And that running became running into the 9+1 for the New York City Marathon. And then I ran myself into a marathon at the New York City.
Yeah.
Like, and so all that stuff, like, it just happened because I wanted it to, and I needed it to, and I was given the tool, and I will be forever thankful.
Yeah. That's amazing. And it's, I actually forgot all about your running journey, but like, now I'm like, oh yeah, you had the whole, like, New York City, you did all of the, like, you had to do, like, volunteer, like, certain number of events, right?
So I had to run 9 races in New York City and volunteer at one event to qualify for the next year for you to do New York City. And then I actually got in the lotto, and I actually won the lotto to go back in, but I never did it. I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I just didn't have the time.
It's so much time to put, like, I would love to do it again, but I just wouldn't have time either.
Yeah. I get it. But yeah, it was definitely the turning point in my life without even knowing at some point, like, what was waiting for me behind, like, in a couple of more months after that.
So surgery is just one step, and it is a tool, but what was the hardest part about your journey, like, after surgery, and how did you really push through those moments?
I had to mourn food. I know it's crazy to hear, and it's probably even crazier to say too, but like, I had to understand that I no longer could turn as my coping skill was to eat. Like, if you look at everybody, like, holidays and what we just passed, and Thanksgiving and all this stuff, like, everything of birthdays is about food. Like, oh my God, I had this or I had that. And like, I had to literally mourn that I could not have the same amount of food and the right kind of food anymore, because it would hurt my stomach or hurt me and have, really severe consequences in the beginning. Now, when I'm out a little bit more, it's a little bit different. And it's completely different actually from day one or year one. But I had to mourn food. That was the really hard lesson. And once I understood that, I was able to get past it. And then it just became part of my day.
Part of your day. Yeah. And you've really learned a whole new way. Like, 9 years later, it's like, of course you can go out and eat how you want, because you know how much you could have now without it being, a major effect or a continuous effect, I guess.
So when I first started this whole journey, like when I started to run, and that's when I first started is running. And there's so many different levels about running that we'll get into maybe, but like, the running part saved my life in so many ways. And it was the ability to run but like I had to fuel myself. And so like the dietitians didn't really know how to handle me because I had so many goals, but they were like, you just had surgery.
Yeah.
Your carbs are supposed to be this amount and your protein is supposed to be this amount. And like, but I'm like, but I need fuel. Like I didn't feel right. So like I was an experiment for a lot of these individuals because they never had to be so young who wanted to do this. So
Awesome.
yeah, so it was a kind of a learning experience for everybody. And it was fun. It was fun to be that barrier, breaking that barrier.
So when did CrossFit come into your life and like what made that you fall in love with that?
Yeah. Just take a step back. So CrossFit came into my life. I had just, I had been working in the Lehigh Valley for a very long time, and I had been living in Pike County where I live right now. And so the distance is about an hour and 15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
We I was commuting and it was killing me. Like 3 hour commute was killing me. And I had just had the one child at that point and we were expecting another one. And so I was able to like find a new job at home. Actually, they found me and I applied and they hired me as an executive director for human services here in Pike. And I was able now to be home more. And this gym was just opening up. And so, okay, I saw a ad and I was like, founding members, it's $1,000 for a year. And I was like, I can do anything for a year, right? Like,
Right.
why not? Like, let's just do it. $1,000, a new gym, whatever. What's the worst that can happen? Well, that's how it happened. It was upfront, $1,000, and I never turned back. It was the best decision I ever did too. It had, again, another one of those things where like, if I didn't have this in place, like my life would not be where it is today.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what are some fitness milestones or accomplishments that you're most proud of?
So I say this all the time. Like, I think that the New York City Marathon is probably the top 4 in my
Right.
life.
Yeah.
My children,
Moment.
yeah,
Yeah. I
my
agree.
2 children, and like my upcoming wedding, and then like the New York City Marathon.
Right.
That is the top 4 moments of my life. I don't know how to explain it unless you ran the New York City Marathon. I always ran with headphones in, always. That day, I didn't even want to like what headphones, like
No.
the energy, the people screaming your name because you have it on, your bib or on your shirt or whatever. The different boroughs had different personalities. Like, I don't know, what was your favorite personality at the borough? Like, I
I
loved
don't,
the
I,
Bronx. Was cool.
yeah, like I feel that's what I'm like trying to think. Like I remember running when you ran over like the one bridge that you kind of like arced back and then you came into one of the boroughs.
Roaring Alley, like when you came in back into Manhattan, where like that big,
Yeah, when you
yeah,
came back
yeah,
in, yeah,
yeah.
I
That's
loved that.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Like when that is probably the moment I remember the most. Like just lines of people just screaming and like cheering you on. Yeah, so that's definitely such an awesome experience, and I will never ever forget it. Probably in my life, just like my kids and everything else. Physical, of course. Like emotionally, I see that the other guy at times still buying clothes. Like I still see myself like buying or going to like the 2X or 3X shirts or like the really big jeans still because I didn't think that I can now fit into 36 waist, like it's crazy. Like that change is so crazy in your head that you just don't connect the dots right away.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like it's like a body dysmorphia in a way, but
Yeah.
you're like, no, that's not. I'm not that person anymore.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's like a crazy experience.
So, how did parenting after your surgery kind of transform the way you parent? Like, did it change? What were some of the big changes that you saw besides being able to chase after, your kids? Obviously, she ran a marathon, so you could definitely catch them.
Yeah, now they can't outrun me. How did my parenting change? My parenting changed in a shift because the junk food kind of like fell out of the house, right? Like that kind of like was like, we're not doing this. Like, oh, look at all this sugar that's going in here. But at the same time, they're kids. So like we can't deprive them of all that stuff too. So I tried to teach them more about, hey, this is protein, this is a carb, and like this is what fuels our bodies, and this is what tastes. I know it might not taste great, but like let's figure out something how to make it taste better and like together and figure that out. It works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. I mean, they're kids, and I get it. But as far as changing my parenting, I'm more careful. And that's on me for me to make sure that they're not repeating history. So like I have a son, Aiden, who is phenomenal in baseball and he's on like this travel team now. And I have a little guy who is great as well. And he is just a rising star, but he's just not there, like, as far as age wise, like he's not playing in that competitiveness yet. And I can't wait for him to do it because he's just going to be a shining star too. But right now we're Aiden's on this in this sports team, and I'm trying to teach him a lot about like, hey, like let's have some protein and like let's have some fuel, let's have some carb. What's a good carb, what's a bad carb, all that stuff. Like a potato is different in a chip form and in a real form.
Yeah. What?
So yeah, yeah. So that's the only change I would say.
Yeah. And so while you were going through all this transformation, you also went through a divorce. So how
Yeah.
long after your surgery did you get divorced?
It was 2 years after surgery I got divorced, but I think our marriage ended 3, 4 months after the divorce. I mean, after surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how was really like still trying to figure out yourself, going through a divorce, becoming a single parent? Tell us about that.
It was hard. It was really hard. And that's when I say like running saved my life, because I was running to clear my head a lot. And unless you put in music in your headphones and you run and you just run and no goal in mind and no pace in mind, and you just like free run and you just want to sweat it out, and like whatever is happening is not happening for like that hour or 2 hours that you're running, is the biggest, piece of zen that you can get. Right. It was very challenging. It was really hard. Ending a chapter in my life like that was difficult. But
And so, I mean, my husband is, his work schedule is so crazy. So I'm by myself with the kids fairly a lot, really. But I'm not a single parent, but I cannot imagine how difficult it is to like not have that relief. But what's one piece of advice that you would give to others navigating like single parenthood, especially dads? Because I feel as though like
Mm.
moms have a village of support, and then like the dads are kind of like left to kind of figure it all out without the same support from
You're
my
absolutely
perspective. I don't
no,
know. I could
you're
be wrong.
you're you're absolutely right. No, so I think as a single dad, and I see single dad with like like a little asterisk, right? Like I have a wonderful fiance who's going to be my wife in November, and she's a great stepmom now, and she loves the kids, and she's always been part of the kids' life too. But ultimately, the responsibility is right. Those are my kids. Um, it is difficult to navigate a world that is set up for parents to be together, but then when they're no longer together, the mom is the one who's the presumed one who gets everything with the children.
Right.
And there were moments where I was like, no, like I'm involved. I'm still here. I'm alive. And like these kids are just as mine as their mom. And like I never thought that I would have to fight so much to have just as equal amount of time and rights as a mom. Like it
Mhm.
was insane to me, Sam. Like I couldn't believe it that I had to do and say things just to have like the same amount of
Right.
parental rights that I have would have afforded to me if we were together.
Right. Like to just prove that you're like
Yeah.
able to, yeah, like, but the mom doesn't have to prove that. It's just like you are
Yeah.
automatically assumed that you have that kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. It was insane. A really difficult time and really disappointing was learning that piece on top of like, you're ending a chapter in your life, you're ending a family, right? Like your family, you're not really ending, I guess, a family, but your family is looking different, right?
Yeah,
And
you're
so,
ending the family that you thought was going to be.
right. Yeah. And like on top of that, you have little hearts involved too. And then you have big emotions from adults because that was fun. That's, ending that's not
Yeah.
fun either. But like, you have big emotions, little hearts, and like you're trying to be as professional and remembering that you're still parents, and like trying to be like, civil, right? And I say that also with an asterisk, but like you have to continue on to show them like they're okay. Like the number one thing was their kid. Like the kids were like, they're going to be okay. We're going to be fine. It's going to look a little different. We're going to live in a different little place right now. And, we're going to rent something. We're going to have an apartment. You're going to share a room, which is different than where you are with your mom right now. And then until eventually I bought a house and it looks different, but like, it is just like such a weird experience, but it can be done and it's really difficult and you just have to keep pushing through.
Yeah. And then you do have to co-parent, like, their mom is a part of your life forever. And especially maybe not ending on, a happy note. What do you think the most valuable lesson that you've learned in making it work for, your children and really for yourself too, because of course anyone could, say like, of course it's about the kids, but like, what do you think for yourself that you have to do in co-parenting as well to make it work?
Well, find yourself a group of friends that you can actually vent to and you can actually talk to and not have any sort of judgment. And that is super important. Again, I go back to CrossFit because that's where I found my tribe. Like I would say, like I found my best friend is literally like him and I share the same birthday actually. Like that's how crazy it is. He's a decade older. So if Sean, if you're listening, sorry, I'm telling everybody, but he's a decade older, but he has walked through this. Yeah, absolutely.
Wiser.
Such a wise guy in many ways. But I remember, like, I remember going through all this and he helped me move out of the house. Like we got a U-Haul and he helped me move out of the house. So like you have to have a foundation and people and friends to be able to really be and say what you want to say so that when you do have to co-parent and do the right things at the right time, that's already out of your system and you can actually focus on the parenting because we're all emotional people, right? Like there's going to be, no matter what you say or how you say them, we all have big feelings too. Like those big feelings never go away from your kid, like you still have them. And being able to get them out and being able to talk to people and not having that judgment is super important. That piece, I think that people forget about that. And you really need to focus on the children and have a co-parenting and figure out your co-parenting plan before, on paper, and you figure it out and you stick to it as best you can.
Yeah.
And that's what worked for us right now. I mean, so when I bought my house purposely 3 or 4 miles away from their mom's house.
Okay.
So that we can be in the same school district, jump on the same bus, be the same because we share custody. So like it's 2-2-3, 2-2, I have them 2 days, she has them 2 days, and then we rotate the weekends. So like everybody has equal time with the kids. And of course, like I never want to take them away from their mom ever, like I don't ever want that to happen. She's a great mom, but at the same time, that wasn't afforded to me at some point, right? So like I had to be the bigger person, say, why don't we just, continue on doing the right thing for the children and figure that out. It was hard. It was really, really hard. And there were moments where I wasn't proud. And there were moments where probably, everybody wasn't proud of some things that were said and done, but we're at a different place now. We're, out a couple of years and we're in a different place where we're really good co-parents, I would say. We really focus on the kids and this new world of travel sports with our one son, I'm telling you, like, will force you to be a good parent because you have to you have to trade off. You have to be like, all right, who's taking him to this practice? Who's taking the other one to this one? And how do you have a normal schedule for our second child? Because our second child didn't decide to do the travel sports. Like he just wants to be home and like do homework. Like, how do we do that? So we really have to work together and it can be done even in the most difficult situations.
It's really nice. So through all of this, you have found love again and you are going to be getting married at the end of this year. So how though did you approach love and relationships after your divorce? Like, I'm sure it was hard to think about maybe you would find love again, or maybe I'm sure you wanted to, but the pain might have altered that for a bit.
Yeah. So Lindsay is my fiance and she is, I know this is going to sound super cheesy and super like, oh my God, why are you saying that? But she is the easiest person to love. She is the easiest person to be with. She's the easiest person to understand, to love. And I think it's because two people that finally found each other who were supposed to be together are just together. And I know, again, super cheesy, right? But I learned so much from her and I've learned like what it is to be loved, how to accept love and how to be with someone. We've never argued. I think we've argued once in the time that we've been together. And like, it was something dumb, but like, we've never argued. We don't, like, it's just not something that we do. We laugh more than anything else. And we even say that, like, when we start laughing, like, do you think other couples like laugh as much as we do? Cause like, I feel bad if they don't. So she's such a great soul and such a great person who showed me how to love and accept it, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah. And accept because that is a lot of it. Not to like, I feel like, you were accepting before your surgery, you were accepting of a lot of bad because you maybe didn't love yourself at the time. I don't know. Like that's
you
also
just hit, you just hit it on the head,
well,
Sam.
like,
I was scared I was going to be alone, and I was scared that I was just, this is the best, or, this is the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then again, like, remember when I said that, like, life was changing without me knowing was changing, and like so many pivotal moments. So like, if I didn't get the surgery, I wouldn't have had the confidence, and I wouldn't have the confidence to go into CrossFit. And if I didn't have the confidence to go to CrossFit, I wouldn't have met the love of my life.
Right.
And if I didn't meet the love of my life, then where would I have been now? And
Yeah.
where would I have been? Like, even my friends, like, I had moved here because in this location, because of my ex-wife's, like, this is where she's from, and this is where she is, like, she wants to raise a family. So of course, like, I only live like an hour away from ESU, by the way. So like, we didn't go very far. So like, I'm here and it's woodsy, and my entire family is back in North New Jersey. Right. And like, all my friends are there too. So if this trickle effect didn't happen, my story would be completely different. At some point I was like, man, I'm so shameful of my story. I'm so scared of it. I'm like, why? I don't ever want anybody to hear about it. But I think now I'm at the other end of it, where I'm like, I think other people need to hear it, because there are other people who are going to be wanting to do the same thing, and need to take that first step.
For sure. Absolutely. And that's where it's, people could, if someone stepped into your life now, they might be like, oh, wow, you have this great life. You have this great fiance. You're in shape. You work out. Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't know what happened these last 10 years for me to get where I am. And it's a long time, but the hard work and dedication to bettering, everything is clearly worth it, to be happy and healthy.
100%. Yeah. So Lindsay is like the love of my life. You would love her. I think you should interview her one day.
Yeah. We'll have to chat. I'll have to meet her. Would love that. So college Rob versus Rob today. If college Rob could see you today, what would you think about this life you've created? And tell me everything you've gone through.
I think he'd be proud, but I also think he would say, slow it down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's such a powerful thing right now in our lives, is like, we're going too fast. I think that we need to slow it down, enjoy the moments, put down the phone, even though that's hard for me to do too.
Yes, hard for me too.
Like the emails and the texts and the, the teams and everything else. Be present in the moment, because I experienced a significant loss with my grandfather recently, and you don't get those moments back. Right. I have great moments, don't get me wrong, but we need to slow down. That's my thing for 2025 right now.
I love that. Slowing down, but you're planning a wedding, so
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. No, I get it. No, I feel like, especially with the age that we're like getting to now, we're not middle-aged at all, but like we're at like a point in many of our careers where we've maybe been doing it for like a long time, and like, what else is happening outside of this? I don't know. That's at least how I feel, where I'm like, all right, I've been doing this, and I feel like I'm always like, all right, what can I do next? What can I do next? What else can I do? So I will take your advice to slow down as well, or I'll try anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Let me know how that goes.
Probably the same as you, but
yeah.
So are there any new fitness challenges or goals that you're working towards now, or are you in any phase of maintaining? Or
so High Rocks, have you heard of High Rocks?
No.
All right, so you need to look it up. So there's like a new fitness competition. It's racing, right? So it's a little bit of a mix of racing and CrossFit, I would say, where there's stations. So you run, I want to say you run like about 1,600 meters, I want to say, around.
Okay.
I completed two. I completed one in New York City and one in Chicago. And then there's different stations. So like there's a wall ball station where you have to do 100 wall balls, burpee, broad jumps, the rower, there's a skier, like there's farmer's carry. So it's really the test of fitness with racing aspect of it, which, where was that before?
Yeah.
And so that was pretty cool. So I want to continue to do that a couple times. I did it as a partner with one in Chicago and one in New York City. Great time. Everybody just does it to just kind of do it to beat yourself. So like you're in a competition with yourself to beat your score from the last time. So no pressure, really. It's just it's a great time, and like training for it. You grab your friend, go do it, sweat and have fun, and then celebrate after.
I feel like we've just caught up for the last 20 years of our.
I know. And there's still more we could talk about.
I'm like, oh my gosh, we'll have to have a part two. But So if you could kind of wrap it up, like what is on the horizon for you? Whether it's fitness, family, life, what are you most excited about for this year or maybe the next 5 years?
Getting married in November. So like that's like right now what we're
Mhm.
focused on. We just did a bunch of wedding planning this weekend in the
Oh,
snow.
fun.
Yeah, and like we were snowed in, so we just did a whole bunch of wedding stuff. But number one thing, Sam, I think I want to switch from like me to really supporting my kids. Like I want to make sure that my kids know that we're going to enter this really tough age of teen and preteen pretty soon. And I want them to know that they can come talk to me about anything. If they made a mistake, I want them to come talk to me. I want them to come be able to rely on their dad and their mom and know that their family is supportive no matter what happens. Whatever the outcome is, we'll be there for them. And what does that look like? How do we create that? So like I have to start doing that now. So that's my number one goal, is to make sure that my kids are great and healthy, because there's environments online and platforms that they have to navigate, and they're always in front of a screen. No matter how much I try to navigate a screen time at school, they're in front of a screen, right? Like
Right.
they're
I
always in front of
know.
a screen. So I want to make sure that they know that they can come talk to me no matter what. So being their number one fan is my number one goal.
Wow. Is there anything else that we've missed? I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. I can
Like,
tell stories about you, Sam. Should we do that?
that'll be another episode. I was like thinking today though, I was like, oh my gosh, like remember the basement of that one house
The
used
ZBT.
to, well, but they used to have like the jungle juice. Yeah, they had like
God,
what I don't know. Anyway,
that was
we
Monday. So remember, we had a schedule. Monday
yeah
was
we did
ZBT. Tuesday, I think we were off, but like
yeah.
it started on Wednesdays. Like Wednesday, we would
Wednesday
go
was
to football and
yeah.
then rugby. And then Saturday was like, who was it? I think it was 5 6. Like we had a schedule.
Oh, we really did. I remember the
Yeah.
Monday night too. But I was like thinking, I'm like, yeah, I used to literally like drink out of a trash can. I didn't even know what was in it. And then now I'm like, all right, well, let's get organic bananas and we can't eat this and I'm like, what? Who am I?
Yeah. So I'm 100% convinced that I probably didn't get COVID because I probably had it at ESU
I
with
know.
beer pong, like with the beer in it, we would drink from it. Like it was insane.
Somebody posted like a spoof video of like the way like the old beer pong like with the dust bunnies like on the ping pong ball. And I was like, we did not care one
No,
bit, one
no.
bit. And now it's like, let's like dip it in, like, we'll just play with water cups. And I'm like, this.
That's what I thought. I was like, this isn't gonna work. This isn't the
Yeah.
same density.
Oh my gosh.
And you know what's funny? I was trying to. They don't even have them anymore. I know I'm a big fan of your podcast, so I know you're gonna ask me about wine, right? I was trying to find a Natty Ice or a Keystone.
Oh my gosh.
That was the choice back then.
Oh my gosh. It really, I remember like my uncle coming like to take me out to lunch and like he's like talking about the beer. And I was like, when I'm older, like I'll be fine drinking Keystone. I don't care. Or like Lion's Head, it's good. And he's like, you will absolutely not. And I was like, now I'm like, you're absolutely correct. I will not
Yeah,
be drinking
yeah,
that in my system. But well, that's
man.
good. Good old days.
Yeah.
Well, I
And
think that's great,
we have to mention though, our good friend who is no longer with us, my roommate, remember Chris? Yeah.
Chris. I know. That was so sad that he was
Yeah.
the best. He truly was. And he's the reason that I started playing rugby, which was just like I remember Quest. Remember we were canoeing and like it started downpouring and
Yeah.
we had to like exit out of the water. I
Everybody
remember like
got poison ivy.
yeah, pretty much. And I just remember him being like, I still remember that moment so vividly. Like I think about it now, him just helping everybody like up and just being such like a force. And his energy was always to just help, others. And,
Yeah.
that was just such a
I was
profound
so I was so lucky to be his roommate for the first year in college.
yeah,
He was such a kind soul, such a
he
nice
was.
person, never mad, and always laughing, and always just giving and worried about everybody else. Which is he became a police officer,
Yeah, that's what I was
so
gonna say. He
such a
in a
fitting
terrible,
role.
terrible area too. Like, Chester is no joke. He would like when I would see him, he would talk to me about it because, my husband's a police officer too. So he would like think that I could relate in a way, but like their stories were not very similar. Like his were way more just traumatic, really.
Yeah,
I mean, I listened to him, of course, but I was like, my husband's just not dealing with this.
Yeah, he's such a good guy. So
Yeah.
let's dedicate this podcast to him today.
Yes,
So
let's do it. This is to you, Chris. I'll
yeah,
drink maybe a natty light for you sometime, dude. Maybe not. I'm sorry.
he'd be
Oh, yeah.
laughing at that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
such a good guy. Such a good guy.
All right. Well, that is going to bring us to the end of another episode of The Running Wine Mom. Thank you, Rob, for catching up, sharing your story. I know that you just have so many pivotal moments in your life, and you're reminding everyone that it's never too late to make a change, whether it's for your health, your relationship, your mindset, from embracing really the challenge of fitness to navigating the joys and hurdles of parenthood. You showed us every step of the journey is worth it. And as always, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it. You can follow me on Instagram at @therunningwinemom_. And Rob, where can the listeners find you?
I guess you can find me on Instagram at Robb with 2 B.
All right. And I will link that. Thank you, Rob. This was great. I loved it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you so much for joining us today. Remember, you are strong, you are capable, and you are all amazing. Until next time, keep running, keep sipping, and keep embracing the joy of parenthood. Cheers, and I will be back next Tuesday. Hey, that was good.